Welcome to the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. I'm your host, Jacob Cooper, author of Life After Breath and the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. For those of you who are new to my podcast, please consider helping the algorithm grow and growing a community here by hitting that subscribe button, as well as sharing your comments in the comments section. And you could also follow us for the audio syndicated podcast on mindbodyspirit.fm. Today's guest in the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder is two-time New York Times bestselling author Christy Whitman. Christy is going to be discussing a lot of ways for us to get into flow, different tools to navigate the times that we're in, her most recent book, The Flow Factor, and more. So without further ado, we bring on the wonderful luminary Christy Whitman on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. Christy Whitman, thank you so much for being here as my honored guest on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. It is so good to have you on.
Thank you. I've really been looking forward to our conversation, and hello to you all.
Thank you all for tuning in. You guys are all in for a treat. On a personal level, Christy, I've been following your social media as well as your, I guess, recent interview on Next Level Soul, and was just so blown away. You're a jack of all trades. You really have so many different parts to you. So I hope during the conversation we're able to, highlight some of those. We would definitely love to have you come back if we missed any plays on the field. But for viewers who haven't heard about you, and I mean these days you have to be living under a rock because you're out there two times, two correct me if I'm wrong, two-time New York Times best-selling author and really a pivotal luminary on the planet. But maybe just talk a little bit about yourself, your work, and how that came into being because you're a force for sure.
Oh, thank you, Jacob. That's so sweet. I'm honored. So, my work began, I was born and raised in Scottsdale, Arizona, Italian American. I was raised Catholic. And, I just thought that there was these things that if I achieved them in life, then I would finally be happy. And those things, it wasn't like someone sat me down and said the key to being happy is, go to college, get a degree, find a man, get married, but in my mind, what I collected and what I saw was, okay, go to college, check, get a degree, check, start a career, check, make money, check, have health in your body, look good in your body, check, find a man, right? And so I did all those things right after college. I moved to Chicago, had this great career, but had money in the bank, had health in my body, had girlfriends, and I was engaged, and I was never so miserable in my life. Even my girlfriend from 7th grade, she's still a dear friend of mine, she's my best friend. She did an intervention, she said, "This is supposed to be the happiest time of your life, and I've never seen you more miserable." And so, for me, that was a moment where I agreed with her and I started therapy, right? And so my therapeutic um, kind of, opening started there. And because of that, I broke off that relationship. I ended up just finding that I was hungry, I was seeking.
Mm,
And what led me to move from Chicago to California was I met another guy, and I decided to make a lateral move from the company I was working for, from Chicago to the Bay Area of San Francisco. And within a month, I realized that he was not a good guy. He was cheating on me and, that whole thing. So I kept attracting these men that were emotionally unavailable, that were addicted, that had, alcohol or drug problems or, would cheat kind of thing. And so I was like, all right, that's it. I'm off men. I'm not dating. I did an embargo, right? I was like, no way, not happening. And during that time, it was interesting. I had met one person through this boyfriend, and she happened to be a hairdresser. And so a hairstylist, I guess we call them now. And I went to get my hair cut, and I was noticing something about Janine that I had never noticed or witnessed in another person. And I didn't have the language back then, but it was like now I can say she was so filled with light. There was something so different about her. but I was, like, just observing her and watching her and having my conversation with her, and I really felt like if you remember the movie When Harry Met Sally and they're in the diner and she's faking an orgasm and the woman says, "I'll have what she's having," right?
That's a Sally, yeah.
Yeah, "I'll what do you do?" And that's what I literally said to her. And she says, "I meditate." Now, please know that this is in the mid-90s. I'd never known anybody that had meditated. The internet is nothing like it is now. We did not have social media or anybody giving advice on how to meditate or change your life. And so when she said I meditated, my paradigm was like some guru guy with a long beard, long white hair, sitting in a yogi style on top of a rock, oming, and I was like, I mean, my paradigm was like, what? Because here was like this hip chick from San Ramon, California that was married and had a dog and was a hairstylist. And you meditate?
Mm,
What? And so, she told me, yeah, it changed her life, that whole thing, and I have a meditation teacher, so I was like, "I'm gonna need her number." So, I was dialing. Do you remember those big brick phones that were not like these cute little iPhones that we had? They're big brick phones. I'm
yep,
dialing
yep.
that as, it was like you needed, to carry the brick phone with you. So, I'm dialing her number as I'm leaving the salon because it was like,
Mm,
I want that level of joy. I want what she's having. So I got to my meditation teacher's house, and again, was not what I was used to. Clinky, clinky, new age music. There was incense and candles, and angel statues, and all of this. And I'm walking in this house, going, "Oh my god, what am I doing here?" And she asked me to sit down on a cushion, not on a chair or a couch, a cushion in the middle of this room, and this all of a sudden, this big, huge, fat cat named Steve comes out and he's like, purring all over me. So my focus is on Steve and loving up this cat and just going, oh my God, I've never seen a cat so fat, and just loving on him. And I look up and Melanie is just staring directly into my eyes. And I felt this like jolt because no one had ever looked at me that deeply. It was like she touched my soul by how she looked at me. And I was locked into her, and she just looked at me and she said, "You create your own reality." And when she said that, it was like something just opened up in me and knew that. It was like, yes,
mm,
yes, I do. But then my mind kicked in and went, how? How? How do I create my own reality? Because that bigger part of me knew was like, oh, finally we're here, right? Yes, you create your own reality. But the human part of me said, how? And she said to me, your thoughts. You're either repelling things from you or attracting things to you based on the way you think. And that was another huge paradigm shift. And she could see that I was like, you know, my thoughts. I thought I was my thoughts. I thought that what I thought was true.
wow. Hmm,
It was that moment in time where it's like I believed my thoughts. If my thoughts told me I wasn't enough, I believed them. I didn't know I could challenge those thoughts.
mm,
If I believed that I was never going to amount to anything, I believed that. I believed that no matter what I was accomplishing, what I was creating, what I was doing, if I was dissatisfied because I had dissatisfied thoughts, I believed those thoughts. And so she said to me, yeah, I mean, no wonder I wasn't finding satisfaction. I mean, you know, so she said to me, I want you to go home, take about a week, pay attention to the thoughts you think. And Jacob, I couldn't really, I could even tell you when I was listening to my thoughts. I remember walking by, it was like, again, this is the 90s. I lived in a room, I rented a room in this very strange woman's house. It was a beautiful house, but she was very strange. And there was a wall, it was like a pool room.
mhm,
So there was a wall of mirrors that was like the closet. I
mm,
remember walking by the closet through these mirrors, and I heard like 20 different cut downs.
mm,
And I was like, no, it wasn't thin enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't this enough. I don't I mean, it was like all these thoughts of judgment and criticism as I walked by this mirror. And for the first time, really focusing on what my thoughts were telling me. So I went back to Melanie and I said, "Oh my God, I'm so negative. I feel like I'm judging myself constantly." And she said, "You have a lack mentality." And I was like, "Oh my God, tell me more. And how do I get off of that? What's the solution to that?" I never heard about an abundance mentality. I didn't know anything about it. You're either thinking thoughts of lack or you're thinking thoughts of abundance. Well, fast forward 30 something years later and 25 years of doing this work now with other people, what I now understand and what I've written in the Flow Factor, my latest book, is that there are 3 different states of being. There's not just 2, it's not just lack or abundance. There's lack, which always feels bad, abundance, which always feels good, and the center point is that satisfaction or that neutrality. And a lot of times going from lack to abundance is too big of a leap. It's trying to jump from, like, one side of the Grand Canyon to the other. Most people can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what my work has become, not only for myself, is finding those spaces of neutrality with my words, my thoughts, my perspective, my emotions, my actions, finding that neutrality when I'm in lack so that I can then move into abundance. But this was all happening. I was changing my life. I attracted a good guy instead of a bad guy.
Mm.
My body was smoking, like I looked the best I'd ever looked. I still feel like I look the best I ever looked. I keep having that different version of myself. Had money in the bank, great career. I mean, things were firing on all cylinders. And what happened was one night I was meditating because that became part of my daily, nightly practice. And I got the image of my first book cover, Perfect Pictures, and it had my name. That
Right.
night, I went to bed, and at 1:05 in the morning, there was a voice outside of me myself, it was not my voice, talking to me. It was like the first sentence, the first chapter, the first, paragraph, first chapter. And it was just talking, talking, talking. As much as I was trying to shut it up and go away, I'm trying to sleep. It was like I had to get up. So I got up, went into my office, put pen to paper, just grabbed my journal and started writing. And my hand just started going automatic. One hand was
Mm.
turning the pages and the other one was just, I couldn't keep up with how fast I was writing and what I was writing to even comprehend it. So I was doing this for a good hour or so, maybe even a couple, and went back to bed. And when I woke up in the morning, I read what I wrote and I was like, that did not come from me. I have no idea who you are or what it is or, what's happening. But for 7 nights in a row, that happened. And then I reached out to the only person that I knew who wrote a book, and it was Terry Cole Whitaker. I just saw her speak at a Church of Religious Science in Redding, California. And I said, "How do you get a book published?" And again, the internet was not what it is today. So she said, "Go on the internet, look for a literary agent." So I typed in literary agent, and there was a picture of a guy, Glenn Millette, popped up, literary agent slash publisher. I'm new at this. Okay. So I reached out to him. He said, "Send me your manuscript." I sent it to him. He approved it.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. So I got the book published and told all my friends and family about it. And they all read it, and none of them were the ideal customer for this book. All of them had thought I had lost my mind. I'm talking about energy and vibration and, beliefs and shifting this. And, they all thought I had lost it. So I thought, well, they're clearly not my audience. Where's my audience? So I started speaking in spiritual bookstores and churches. And I remember this one workshop, I showed up. There were 6 people in the room. And I was just grateful that somebody showed up. And people would ask me, "Do you coach?" Now, again, it was the mid-90s. I never knew of a coach. I never heard of life coaching, anything like that. And I said, "Well, what do you mean, like a cheerleading coach?" Because I was a coach for cheerleaders that were in 7th and 8th grade, right? I mentored little cheerleaders. And they were like, "No, life coach." And I'm like, "People get paid to do that? Like, that's a profession, right?" And I said, "No, just give me a call or email me, and I'll walk you through what you need to shift." And Jacob, I started doing that with these people, and I love the process of helping them go from lack to neutrality into abundance. And more importantly, they would call me back or email me back going, "Oh my God, I got the job. Oh my God, I just got a raise out of the blue," right? My boss called me in and gave me a raise. I met him, right? It was all this like, and so not only did the process feel amazing, but the entire like celebrating their successes and celebrating their wins, it was like it just lit me up. So I became a coach and I've been doing this work for 25 years now. I've written 7 books. I'm a healer, I'm a channeler. I've certified, I started in 2008 the Quantum Success Coaching Academy, where I got to then teach others to do what I do
Yeah.
by certifying them through the universal laws. So
Mhm,
it's just an honor, a privilege. I'm just so grateful. Um, so
mhm.
here we are.
Wow, what a story, what a karma, the story and the dharma, the growth of the soul that you've had through this. It almost reminds me a little bit about a couple colleagues that I have, and Neil Donald Walsh with the automatic writing, and who's been a guest in the Wisdom Jacob's Ladder, and friend and colleague of mine by the name of Dan Millman, who wrote the book The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, where he just stumbled across some gas station attendee or something like that, and that was kind of like the boot at the gas pump thing. And I mean, it just shows you that a lot of times angels come in many forms, as do sages and wise beings, and some of the best therapists I found have given me haircuts too. So that's a wonderful trajectory of your story, and just amazing to see the real changes that you've had through applying, some of these ancient modalities. For a lot of people listening, um, change could be a hard process. Change could be scary. Change could feel very difficult, and particularly when it comes to habituated thoughts. And, many different people have, I don't know, per se, cumulative, perhaps disadvantageous, positionalities with that, if that's anxiety or OCD. It's not a one size fit all with this thing. Like, how could people start from someone who's walked the path and had that hero's journeys that you've had in your incredible career that's continuing to ascend? Where do people start? Because a lot of people feel quite disempowered, or they just don't know where to start, or they will, push away change because it's scary and or they fear it won't work.
Well,
Where's that starting place?
Well, isn't it funny because change is one of the things that's inevitable. It's one of those things that's
Mhm,
consistent in our universe, yet we're so resistant to it,
mhm,
right? And there's a reason for that. And it's part of we'll get into this, but part of the reason I wrote The Flow Factor, because as a human, we want to stay safe. And so we have this survival mode of fight, flight, freeze, right? That just when contrast happens, meaning something we don't want, it kicks in and we either get in resistance mode or we freeze like a bunny in the desert, right? Or we're like, I'm out of here and that flight mode kind of thing.
mhm,
But where someone would start, and I'm glad you asked that question, is I created a free program and I'm going to welcome all of you to go there. It's called watchyourwords.com.
mhm,
So it's plural, watchyourwords.com. And the reason I created this is because years ago, I had, someone on the radio that I was doing an interview with say, "Okay, you're talking about esoteric principles. You're talking universal laws. How does someone start today to apply them?" And I'll say the same thing to you, Jacob. It's starting with our words because our words have power. When you think of it in the Bible, it said, "In the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God." Now, exchange God for good, right? If we're speaking a word that feels good, it's going to create good. If we're speaking a word that doesn't feel good, it's based in lack and it pulls our energy down.
mm,
So this watchyourwords.com, it's 30 videos of each day is a different word. So you have what not to say,
mhm,
why, and what to say instead. Because as you just start to change the words, that gives you a different feeling. So our consciousness is what we say, our words,
mhm,
what we think, our thoughts. Remember, Melanie, my teacher, started with the thoughts, right? I say start with the words because words are reflective of what you're thinking, of what you're feeling, what you're perceiving. So you got words, thoughts, perceptions or beliefs, emotions, and then actions. That's all we are in charge of.
Hmm.
We're
Yes.
not in charge of others. We
Mhm.
certainly can't control what the weather or the government. We can influence it,
Mhm.
right? I've gotten really good. I was in Miami 2 weeks ago, and there was supposed to be I turn on my phone, and there's 3 hurricanes that are headed towards Florida, and I just literally in my mind saw it moving out and declared the kind of weather that I wanted, and I didn't have any rain that weekend, and there was certainly no hurricanes. I've got story after story after
Mhm.
35 years of, you know, excuse me, affecting the weather, right? We
Hmm.
can affect it, we can influence it, but we do that because we're creating our reality through the words that we say, the thoughts that we think, the pictures, the images, the perspectives we hold in our minds, how we feel, and what we do. So that's where you start. Start with the words because our words lead to those thoughts. What are thoughts? They're a series of
Mhm.
words, right? What are beliefs? Or
Mhm.
images in our minds or perspectives. It's a thought we think over and over and over again until it becomes solidified as something we picture and see in our minds.
Mhm.
And all of that is based on our mental body. That's all mental. That's We have 4 bodies. We have our mental body, emotional body, physical body, and energy body. So those first 3, words, thoughts, and perspectives are all part of the mental body.
Mm.
Those all create a tipping point for our emotional body.
Wow.
And then what we do is what we do with our physical body. But all of that has an effect on the energy. We're either repelling things, like Melanie said, we're either repelling things from us or attracting things to us based on our consciousness.
Mm. Wow. If only people knew how powerful they were, right? And
Truly.
it seemed for yourself, you followed this script of disempowerment that told you that in order to be something, you needed to do something, and then you had this kind of midlife crisis where you just checked off all the box and it wasn't adding up. I mean, would you say, a lot of this is really getting back to who you are and your soul versus, kind of like this leaf and water trajectory that so many are on?
Well, that's just it, is that, everything that we desire, that flow exists for us in every moment.
Mhm.
And flow is something that we are not separated from, we are a part of. And so flow is powerful, but why I wrote the flow factor is because we are the factor. The flow exists. Are we in it or are we out of it? And when we're in that space of lack, which doesn't feel good, and let's define lack, right? That's where all of those lower level emotions, they're not to negate those lower level emotions, they're communicative, they're important, they guide us as humans, but we don't want to stay stuck in them. If we feel the fear, feel it, be informed by it, and then get back into the flow. If we have a thought of doubt, be informed by it, but then get back into the flow. But lack is anything that doesn't feel good. I like to think of like our emotions, our states of being as a piano, right? You've got low notes all the way to high notes, and every single key on that piano has a frequency, right?
Mhm.
So anything that's on this side of the piano, on the lower level is the lack, where it's doubt, fears, worries, disappointments, frustration, sadness, powerlessness, even those behaviors that come from it,
Mhm.
procrastination, jealousy, envy, gossiping, judging, criticism, all of that is in lack. Now, I was raised in that bucket. I was raised and my dear mom, who's 89, my dad passed a year ago. He was almost 92. They live in that. That's my family members. They live in that. Not my current family members like my husband and my kids, but
Mhm.
my original family lived in that, and that's where I live too, and that's why I was never satisfied. How could I be if I'm in lack? Because the second state of being is satisfaction.
Mhm.
It's neutrality.
Mhm.
It's where appreciation. I'm okay. I'm gonna
Mhm.
be okay. This is going to work out. It's going to be fine. I'm all right. I'm not over the moon
Mhm,
excited like I am when I'm in abundance,
mhm.
but these frequencies, it's like I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm all right? Then it's based on one of the laws that I teach, the 7 essential laws. This is my favorite law, is the law of sufficiency and abundance. It's not just the law of abundance, it's the law of being sufficient in order to move into abundance, because we cannot be in lack and attract abundance, and most people don't know when they are.
Right, wow, and, I think, a lot of people know Flo from Progressive commercials, that character, but we're talking about another kind of Flo over here, which, I think for a lot of people, and I work in the mental health field, so many people feel the world is out of whack. They feel a lot of pain. They feel an assault on the nervous system with everything going on. And so for people to connect to this flow when everything around them seems out of whack, like how does that begin and what is that like, to really experience this, inner sense of flow? I'm just kind of interested if we could kind of expand that to speak to this current moment in time with,
Yes.
not to get into all the specifics, but there's a lot of stuff happening these last several years, and it's in many ways a weird kinda strange world that we grew up in, right? It's a little bit different, but yeah.
Well, here's the thing, 2 points to that. There's always been contrast, meaning what we don't want. You could go back and look at Time magazine from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. All the covers of Time magazine tell us that, oh my God, the oceans, and oh my God, the wars. And
Mhm,
there's always been something negative that has been happening in our world. That's the polarity. There's positive, there's negative, there's up, there's down, there's in, there's
mhm,
out, there's hot, there's cold, right? There's always been that media can report on all of the bad news happening in the world. But now we're seeing it because it's at our fingertips. We
mhm,
have it on social media. We're inundated by it. So it feels like, oh my God, the world. It's always been like that. It's just now we're seeing more of it and we have access to it more. But here's the thing. So that was the first part. The second part is, in this land of the third D, we have one of the laws that is polarity. If there is good, there's bad. And so if there is contrast, meaning what we do not want, there is also the opposite of what we do want. And so contrast, again, contrast is defined as what we don't want. It comes in lots of different varieties. It could be like, oh, I stubbed my toe, or it could be someone's sent me a rude email, or, the government did something, or whatever. And it could be something very traumatic, like some type of verbal, mental, sexual, physical abuse, traumas, big T traumas to little t traumas. That's contrast, right? And contrast, unfortunately, is unavoidable. It happens in our world. But our resistance to the contrast is optional. I have clients every single day that tell me, well, you know what? There's contrast happening in my business right now, but I'm okay. I'm navigating through it. I'm finding the flow. I just had a woman yesterday that's in her 70s tell me that I'm living life very differently because I'm noticing the contrast, but I'm not allowing myself to get attached to it. And that's the key. Because contrast, meaning what we don't want, automatically fires up that fight, flight, freeze,
mhm,
right? We immediately either resist it, fight against it, push against it, or we freeze and feel totally disempowered by it and powerless, or like, I'm out of here. And that's where using vices, addictions, where it's like, I've got to escape this, that
mhm,
escapism, right? All of that comes from the very wired parts of ourselves to survive. We are no different in many cases, than a bunny, a tortoise, or a human being. We all have that mechanism of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. However, what's different about us human beings is that we have our intellect, we have our imagination, we have perception. And when we can look at contrast and look at it from a different way of perceiving it, then we can get back into flow. And the key to doing that, the key to getting out of that contrast and getting into the neutrality is compassion.
Hmm.
Now,
Compassion. Hmm.
compassion is misunderstood because the council taught me this when I started first person channeling them in 2018.
Is this the council of, like, elders, you would say, on the
The
other side, or
council of light,
the
yeah. So
council of light? Cool.
they're ascended masters,
Mhm.
high beings of light.
Mhm.
The first thing they're here to work through me for me to be a mouthpiece of energy mastery. For
Mhm.
us to be able to live this life and master our own energy, because when we master our own energy,
Mhm.
then we're in flow, we feel good no matter what contrasting thing happens, we can navigate around it and through it. We don't have to stay stuck in it. We don't have to
Mhm.
stay stuck in that animalistic freeze, fight, resistance, fight for the rest of my life or run from myself for the rest of my life,
Mhm.
right? We could get back into flow.
Mhm.
That compassion, so misunderstood because people think, "Oh, I have compassion for that person." But do you have it for yourself?
Mhm.
You cannot give away what you don't have for yourself. You
Mhm.
cannot express what you don't feel for yourself. So, my biggest message and through the flow factor is self-compassion, and we do that in 3 ways. We get out of the contrast, we get out of our animalistic mind, we get back into the flow, we get back into neutrality with 3 things. First of all, the invitation, and you had mentioned this, you came back to your soul, right?
Mhm.
The invitation to know that something greater, bigger, whether you call it God, the universe, your soul, your higher self, a power greater than you, the life that's
Mhm.
breathing you, invite your consciousness to focus on that consciousness. So I like to say, I'm inviting my soul. My soul is my energy body. Your soul is your energy body. It's 5 feet above you, 5 feet below you, 5 feet in front of you, all the way around you, 5 feet behind you. It is
Mhm.
that orb of light that you are. And it's also breathing you. It's beating your heart. It's growing your nails. It's growing your hair. It's the when we are gone and dead, and we
Mhm.
all will be, right? My grandfather used to say, when none of us gets out of this alive, right? When we no longer have life pulsating through us, our soul will go on and continue and go back to pure positive energy, but the physical part of us will be
Mhm.
unanimated. We won't have that life animating us anymore. But while we're here in this moment, and you're here, you're listening, that means you're alive, right? You're comprehending, it means you got life force in you. That life force knows more than you. That life force has the solution for whatever perceived problem you have right now. That life force can support you. That life force, that soul self vibrates in compassion and higher. It doesn't go into lack with you. And that's why we feel so crummy
Mhm.
when we're in lack because we feel so lonely, isolated, separated, right?
Mhm.
Because our soul doesn't go there with us.
Mhm.
It's always there with us, but when our consciousness, our words, our thoughts, our perceptions, our emotions, and our actions are in lack, it stays where it is in compassion. So, number one is inviting in, just tuning into the fact that there is a greater part of you. And that sources that compassion, that higher energy. I like to say, imagine that your soul is bringing light down through the top of your head and filling you up with light, like every single cell in your body, every part of your mind, your emotions, everything is being filled up with light. That's the first thing.
Mhm. Mm.
I mean, doesn't that feel comforting just to even think about that?
Just hearing that, I'm getting chills, yeah.
Right? That's comforting. So now, just even that, you're now in that neutrality place. You're not in the whatever you were before, but it's just that invitation. It's like,
Mhm.
I'm breathing deeper. I'm feeling better. The second thing is do something somatic. I like to say, give yourself a hug. So,
Mm.
Jacob, give yourself a hug.
Okay. Didn't
All
have
of
this on
you.
my bingo card today. I love it.
I love it. If you're listening to this, just stop and give yourself a hug. If you're driving, just give yourself a half hug, but hug yourself.
Mm.
Because what happens when you somatically, you could even put your hand on your heart, but I love the hug because it's like a
Oh,
big
yeah.
warm embrace. And what happens
Mm.
is that animalistic, that limbic system starts to relax. Your nervous system starts to
Mm.
relax. Your
Mhm.
emotions start to calm. Your mind starts to calm. You feel that comfort, right? That
Mm.
beautiful comfort. Do that for about 90 seconds. You could rock yourself, shake yourself, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Breathe in.
Mm.
And then the third part while you're hugging yourself is tell yourself, I'm okay. I'm all right.
Mm.
I've got this. It's going to be okay.
Mm.
God, the universe, my soul loves me. It's all going to turn out fine,
Huh.
right? So,
Yeah.
words of affirmation. Now you're in neutrality. Ah,
Huh.
well, we don't want to stay there. Neutrality feels better than lack, but we're meant to be abundant. We are abundant. Abundance is part of our divine design. And that's where you go back into the flow of what do I want? What would I love? What would I love? Right? I'd love to have more money flowing to me. All right. Well, why would you want more money flowing to you? I write these three questions in the book. What do you want? Why do you want it? How do you want to feel? What do I want? I want money flowing to me. Why do you want that? Because then I would be secure, I'd be free, I could do the things I want to do.
Uh-huh.
Ultimately, how do you want to feel? Because that's the energy that's available to you right now. Like the keys on the piano, right?
Mhm.
We're the piano player.
Mm.
So the key of success exists right now. And that flow, that energy field of success exists right now, not when or if or then, now. In this
Mm.
present moment, as you're choosing that success key or that abundance key or that love key or the support key or the freedom key, whatever key you want to choose, as you are tuning in deliberately with your consciousness and focusing again on I am abundant, I feel abundant. And you're perceiving yourself and imagining yourself being abundant, right?
Mm.
You're then going to take an action that's very different than if you felt like you were in lack.
Hmm. Wow. I love it. There's so many places to go, and, thank you for that self-healing that you gave to myself and my viewers. I was listening to Louise Hay speak the other day, and she was speaking about, no matter what happens, I am safe, all is well, and out of this, only good can come from it, and it just reminded me of people are walking to a lot of things, but to remind ourselves, no matter what, we go on. And certainly being a first-hand near-death experiencer, that's one of the messages that I have that, not even death could stop you. It makes you questions what can. And I guess we can get in our own way. But regarding the keys, it's very interesting how, I don't know what your thoughts about this, how we could be in a state of fear or anger or this. We could be in those frequencies, or we could think like God or be in that God frequency. And that's a pretty high key. Is that a part of also, your teachings for people to really connect to the higher ethericals? I think that, and also, like, if they're getting too disconnected sometimes to this reality, is that something that could be, I don't know, something that isn't gets in the way of, being a spiritual being, having a human experience sometimes?
Exactly. There's two parts of us here, right? It's the spiritual part of us, it's the high vibing part of us, but then we also have a human experience. And those imprints, right? Those trauma points,
Mhm.
those times when we went for something and got disappointed, those times when we were heartbroken or betrayed,
Mhm.
those times when we, just are like, complete shock. I like to call them, and talk about this in the book, in the Flow Factor. I talk about bushwhacks. You're going along, you're feeling good, and then you get news of something. And let's talk about the turtle, right? What does the turtle do when it has a threat? It goes into itself.
Mhm.
Well, we do the same thing. We get some kind of news and we shut down our heart. We
Mhm.
shut down around the emotion. And that's what creates an imprint. And that imprint, you could think of it like an anchor that pulls us back. I like to think of it as a vortex because energy cannot be dissolved. It can't be created and destroyed. It just is, and it continues to vibrate. And so if we close down around energy, that energy will spiral. It's like a caged animal, right? It's going to go bigger, and so what that does, it creates a subconscious, if you will, because you're not conscious of it. it creates a vortex of energy in which you draw more situations, people,
Mhm.
experiences to that and vibrate in that. But when you can master your energy, when you can release those imprints, when you can let them go by processing them out, they no longer are stuck. And I've
Hmm.
seen this, over and over and over with clients where someone is stuck in a certain belief or stuck in a certain hurt point or stuck in a certain trauma. And when they release it and finally process the energy, now you've got flow instead of those stuck points.
Hmm. That shift is very powerful, isn't it?
It's everything. I mean,
Mhm.
because it's then understanding. Here's the biggest thing, and this is what I love about my clients. It's like stuff's gonna happen. There's gonna be some contrast. Sometimes you're gonna get some news you don't want to hear.
Mhm.
But when you know the system to navigate around it and not get
Mhm.
stuck in it, you are then a free individual. You are then a powerful human being because you know that you don't have to stay stuck in those places, that you have the tools. I mean, Jacob, here's the thing that's different about us, and this is the good news because if everyone's looking about how screwed up the world is and all this kind of stuff, I want to say the world is in a better place than it's ever been. And why I say this is because we know more now. Before, our parents, our grandparents didn't have tools to get out of lack. They didn't even realize they were in it, they were stuck in it. Most
Mhm.
people didn't have that information. It's the tools that we now have access to that are our source of empowerment because when we can go from here to here to here, then we're different. We create differently. Our life is different. Our perspective is different. Our life experience is different. And that's the thing is that we have more human beings like you and I that are connected, bringing in higher truth, expanding, expressing that light than ever before on the planet. We've got more light workers, we've got more tools, we've got more understanding, we've got more access than ever before. It's just where are we focusing?
Mhm. Yeah. It's a very powerful thing, and I heard a quote that someone, I think it was by Muji, that said, "Yesterday I was smart and I wanted to change the world, and today I was wise and I decided to change myself." And I think that really coincides with a lot of what you're kind of preaching, like, we can't control the waves, we can learn how to surf, that those kind of things, and you're right, we do have there is a lot, but there's also a lot of access to ways to navigate these things, and, that's the beauty about social media. I don't know your thoughts on this, but it's a great, reflector of our own inner algorithm,
It
in a
totally
sense,
is.
and we kinda magnetize and attract right in front of us, what we're focusing on, and so, like, we could focusing on, the kind of frequencies that you emanate, and we'll attract more of those types of videos, and so it's just a great reflector of where people are holding in their current level of consciousness and state.
It totally is. I mean, I love that you brought that up. I mean, if you're looking at social media, and I saw this the other day, and I was very clear to not continue to focus on it, but something came up in my feed where there was a woman on a plane arguing with a couple next to her because they were wearing a hat that she didn't approve of and was like pissed off that they wouldn't take their hats off.
Mhm.
And some woman is like videotaping this whole thing, and she got so upset she just demanded to go change seats. Now, if we're looking at that and we're looking at how people are behaving in that way, and on our algorithm, we're watching it, we're staying on it, the algorithm is going to show us more of people arguing and
Mhm.
things that are, don't feel good. The drama of it all, the drama, the chaos, the struggle, that's over here, right? So the next time I saw a video of it was like so quick. I saw some guy reaching, it was like an argument, there was something very dramatic. I scrolled immediately. I don't want my algorithm
Mhm.
to stay on that even for a second, because I don't want the algorithm of, say, Instagram to give me more of that drama, chaos, struggle. I want to then, oh, my friend Marie Diamond's talking about feng shui, right? Oh, there's a Neville Goddard quote that's there. "Oh, look at that. There's, something about the harvest moon," right? These are things I want to stay on and focus on so I get more of that in my feed and less of the drama and struggle. So if when I see the drama or I don't know why this happened. Huh, wink, wink. I get a lot of, like, men with their shirts off with, like, six-pack abs, right? And
Mhm,
so I might stay on that for a minute because it's enjoyable, right? But the drama and the stuff, I'll scroll past so that it
mhm,
doesn't continue to show up in my algorithm.
mhm,
Same thing with life.
mhm,
If we're focusing on the drama, the struggle, the contrast, what we don't want, the resistance, the doubt, the worries, the criticisms, the judgments, when we're on that,
mhm,
we're going to get more of that in our life algorithm. But when we're focused on the pleasures, what we would love, what we want, why we want it, how we want to feel, what we want to experience, the appreciation of what we already have, then we're going to get more of that. I have a graph in the book The Flow Factor. There are literally 16. There's a whole section of the appendix, 16 different energy mastery processes. Um, to help you get back into flow when you're out of flow. But I just want to show you this. There's a graph that I have here. And this graph is really important because it
mhm,
shows the three different states of being. The minute we go into judgment,
mhm,
we then
mhm,
criticize and we're out of flow. But the
mhm,
minute we can come back into compassion, we come back into flow, right? The minute we are appreciating or joyfully expecting something, we're in flow.
mhm,
And who controls what we observe? We are the ones that observe. It's our minds, right? We're the ones observing. So, like the example of being on social media, what we are observing, we're going to get more of.
mhm, mhm,
Algorithm of life is going to bring that to us. It's law of attraction at its best. What we focus on expands. What we focus on, it's like a boomerang. What we send out, it comes back to us.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. And so much of our society could kind of focus on like what we want to do one day, like what kind of job do we want, instead of like focusing on who do we want to be one day? What do we want to focus? What's our being? Because yeah, you could have all the doing, but there's no if that being isn't in check, it's going to be empty doing without a sense of being. And I think your work really allows people to get back into their beingness and that deepened connectivity of flow. That's a wonderful chart, and really strongly suggest all my viewers to check out the flow factor for sure.
You'll it's life-changing, it really is. I mean, my publisher, when she read just the, proposal of it, she said, "Just by reading this proposal, I can't go back to what I used to know because now I know better." And her life totally changed. My PR team that read the book, they literally when anything happens now, they're shifted. When you know this, it's like birthing a baby. Once the baby's out, you can't put the baby back in. Once you have this level of awareness and consciousness, it's yours forever. That's yours to keep, to live from, to be. It's like it's a gift that just keeps on giving. And, one last thing I wanted to say about that because it's essential, right? Years ago, and this is God, 20 something years ago, it has to be over 20 years ago. Well, it is. It was 26 years ago. Um, I was in a career, I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, right?
Mhm,
Which I'm a kind of person, if I get a headache, I'll put peppermint oil instead of taking an Advil or Tylenol, right? It's like I just go for the natural. If I'm sick or whatever, I'll go to acupuncture, I'll do massage, like, I'll do these kind of natural
mhm,
things before I run to the doctor. It's just me, right? However, here I was in a pharmaceutical, sales industry where I'm telling doctors what to prescribe and how to prescribe it and that sort of
mhm,
thing. And I felt like every day when I went to work, no matter how much I motivated myself, no matter how much I inspired myself, I was drained by
mhm,
the second hour that I was, sometimes by the first hour, I'd just be like, well, I
right,
could feel my life force just draining out of me. And so, doing this exact process, I literally created a dream career. And here's how I was in lack, even though I made great money, I was
mhm,
stuck because I made great money, had a certain lifestyle, couldn't leave the job because where else was I gonna make this kind of money, right?
mhm,
And I wanted to make money, but what was missing, and that's the key, What was missing for me was passion and purpose.
Mm.
I didn't
Mm.
feel passionate about what I did, and I certainly did not feel on purpose. So, knowing what I know, keys of the piano, right? Those are the missing keys, and those are things that I have a longing for and I'm discontented with in what I'm doing now or back then.
Mm.
So, I started to play the keys of passion and purpose. I was playing them together, right? Because that piano has the potential to play anything you want, chopsticks, Van Halen, Bach, whatever you want to play, right? We're the piano player. We choose the notes. So
Mm.
I would meditate. I would connect with the flow of passion and purpose
Mm.
daily, daily. And when I would feel myself in that place of lack and feeling like, oh, I can't do this job anymore, I would conjure up the feeling of passion and purpose. I brought passion and purpose to the current job I was doing. And it
Mhm.
changed, I was having great success and winning all sorts of awards and everything. And I wasn't necessarily passionate and purposeful about what I was doing. It was the energy I was bringing to what I was doing, and that's when my book, I told you the story of how the book came through. I was practicing passion and purpose. I became an author. I became a coach. I became a healer. I became a transformational leader and a channeler because I cultivated what I felt was missing. Because you can't create from lack, you can't create from emptiness. So I cultivated the fulfillment of
Mhm.
what I was wanting, the passion and the purpose, which led me to now today sitting here with you, lovely sir, and all of you that are listening with such passion, such conviction, such purpose of what I am doing,
Mm.
because I live that every day and I connect with that every day and I cultivate that every single day. So, whatever you are feeling discontented with in your life, whatever you have dissatisfaction with in your life, whatever you are longing for, ask yourself, what do I want? Why do I want it? How do I want to feel? That
Mhm.
feeling state is the essence. For me, it was passion and purpose.
Mhm.
And now cultivate that, bring that in. If you don't know how to do it, buy the flow, purchase the flow factor, right? It's got a whole appendix to help you get back into flow. Go check out ChristyWhitman.com. It's what I do. You are the piano player. You get to choose the keys and the notes because the flow is here. You're the factor. And when you start aligning and vibrating with that feeling, with that essence, it is universal law. You must attract that which matches that vibration.
Mhm. I love it, and I know we have a mutual individual in the spirit realm that we connect to from some of your videos and Dr. Wayne Dyer,
Mhm.
and I was watching, the Shift documentary a couple years ago. I don't know if you ever seen it, and if any of my
Mhm.
viewers have, please do watch it. Even if it's a little bit grainy on YouTube, do go see it. But someone and to your point, someone asked Wayne, "How do you connect to the divine or God?" And he stopped and he just said the word enthusiasm. And they said, "What do you mean?" He said, "It comes from that Greek word entheos, the inner passion, the things that we love. That connects us to our own divinity." And that really coincides with what you just said with passion and then the action of purpose and acting on it. So that is an amazing statement that you just said and really God frequency and channel. And it's no coincidence you are where you are. You know, your work is leading you to where you were, and that should be a beautiful example and inspiration for people to find within themselves too. That it's very transformative for sure. Yeah.
And it's not just me.
Yeah.
It's every single person that does this.
Hmm.
You can change, you can transform, and it doesn't have to be difficult, hard, or uncomfortable.
Hmm.
It can actually be fun. It could be pleasurable. It could be easy. It could be flowing. It doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to be hard work. But it's like it's a system of transformation. And when you plug yourself into that system of transformation, you too will have the results that you want. I've seen it over hundreds of thousands of clients. It
Yeah.
works.
It truly does, and I encourage all my viewers to check out the Flow Fractor and all things on Christy Whitman. But before we depart, Christy, and we'll make sure to share all of your information, is there any last messages that you have or potential any events coming up or things you would like to share with the audience? You've delivered so many droplets of wisdom that I encourage viewers to continue to check out this video, replay it. Do not rush through it. Take your time because Christy has just offered such profound transformational concepts, that are so needed during these times. But I'll give you the floor for anything that you would like to share before we conclude this incredible conversation.
Yeah, so I would say the first step is go to Watch Your Words and, put your name and your email in there and you will have there's no, credit card required or anything. It's totally free. You will get those videos where you can start shifting just your
Mhm.
words. They make a huge difference. Huge difference. I've heard so many different amazing stories of how you shift one word and the manifestations in your life change. So watchyourwords.com.
Mhm.
Please go pick up a copy of the Flow Factor book. Not for me, for you, because it is life changing. It really is. It's like the manual of how to really navigate out of those things in life, like contrasts that pull our energy down. And that start with those two things, and you're going to start feeling better. Because the thing is that you already are abundant. You already have access to the flow. There's nothing missing from you. You have accessible and access to anything that you desire, whether it's just to feel better in a moment, whether it's to have that compassion for what you're going through. All of it's here for you. You don't have to go buy it or do it or get it, or it's here. And the more you learn that, the more you connect with that, the more that you have that powerful access at your fingertips whenever you need it or want it. So y- you're the chooser, right? You're the one that gets to choose which key you're going to play. They're all there for you. It's like I have a piano over there and there's just keys just sitting there waiting to be played.
Mm.
Play the keys you wanna play the keys you want to play. Feel what you wanna feel. Think what you wanna think. Speak what you want to speak into existence. Use your imagination. We're all using our imagination. We cannot not think, right? We're either using our imagination for what we want or for what we don't want, and you're the focuser. So,
Love it.
focus wisely.
I guess Billy Joel is onto something with the Piano Man or Piano Woman, whatever, you wanna say, but I guess that's life in a nutshell. Well, I encourage all of you to check out Christy's website, it's The Flow Factor, her books, and do give her a follow on social media. I know I do, and she has some wonderful videos that I'm sure will change your life and your day. So, Christy Whitman, you are welcome back whenever you can. Come back, and thank you for continuing to help us climb the, Jacob's ladder over here. You really ascended myself and many of my viewers, and you're a true gift to the planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you. Blessed. Well, that was a wonderful conversation. I learned so much from Christy, as I know you did all. And I know she helped us to really understand the piano of life and tuning into the different keys that could really change our life and our trajectories. And I know she helped so many ascend on their own path, on their own personal ladders. So thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you, Christy, for being a wonderful guest. It was a true pleasure having you. And we'll see you here next time on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. Thanks for tuning in.